everybody. This is Angela. Welcome to Discover RPG, the show where we celebrate every letter in the acronym RPG. Hi, Jay. Thank you so much for joining me. This was last minute, a little bit for solo. Logan's not feeling too well today, so I'm covering for him. Please feel better soon, Logan. That was the thing I meant to say. Anyway, I'm gonna be a little bit of a mess today, but I played around with a new thing. You guys, you can't see me. I'm in the corner, but I can work while I have my screen up here. I'm so excited. So, I'm going to be doing a little bit of work today. You guys will be my accountability buddies. I'm gonna be planning a little bit of my Electro Fantasy one-shot, or not one-shot, but mini campaign that I'll be running with a few people from Nerdsmith as part of our Patreon bonus content in the coming year. So I will be working on this. Hopefully we'll be able to play over the break a little bit so that I can get some episodes banked. But we're going to talk a little bit about the world of Emberwild. I don't know why I said that like that, but you know. So, Emberwild. Emberwild is a game system that I'm going to be playing around with, a game system and a setting that I'm going to be playing around with. It is described as electric fantasy, and what's kind of beautiful about it is how open to interpretation that definition is. Electric fantasy seems to predicate on the idea that nature ate, consumed, absorbed, or has always been connected to technology and magic. They're all kind of the same thing. They coexist. They are created in the same space. And so what our players have started to work on is who their characters are in this world. Now, Emberwild, I believe I went over this pretty substantially last time that I ran one of these solo power hours. But we'll talk a little bit about our character concepts and see if we can build some fun stuff. I have my premise, so one of the things I'm definitely going to be working on today is the plot of my one-shot. Now, the story is going to be called Troubleshooters. Totally not ripped off of Paranoia. Absolutely not. And it's going to be not really a mystery, but it's going to be an opportunity to explore some of the dangers that can exist in this world and some of the beauty that can exist in this world. So I'm coming up with some concepts for what is in this space. So let me see really quick some of the articles that I have already produced, or at least started. I have created the Sanctuary Security Guild is one of the big ones. That's going to be the antagonist, I suppose you would call it, of our overarching story. Talked a little bit of it. I need to flesh this out a little bit more, or at least make it a little prettier. But they are a guild of security experts. Now, interpret that however you wish. In a world that has magic and technology in the same vein, you're going to have a couple of different definitions of what security is considered. It is wards, magical wards. It is creatures or spirits that have been summoned to protect a settlement. It is straight up laser grids that are also kind of magically created. It's almost anything, which is kind of fun. The one thing I'm really digging about this Emberwild system is that it plays like Adventure Time. The only limitation is your imagination. Everything kind of goes, and you just have to justify. You don't have to rationalize why it exists. the fact of the Emberwild, the fact of the Emberwild is why it exists. It exists because magic and tech and nature are all the same. But all you have to do is just conjure a fun concept, and that's what a lot of our players have done already. So let's actually, before getting into the plot, let's do something else. Let's do a really quick, basic rundown of our characters. So we're going to give each of them a little blurb so that they have something to reference. So we have the Brain Bear. The Brain Bear is a wizard-like class, and we are describing the Brain Bear as an automaton who is wirelessly connected to the AI of their ancestors. The previous versions of collected memory and information that resulted in its programming. So we are going to have a session 0 to talk a bit more about the character, name them, have them be... I mean, honestly, I'm not even sure if we're going to name them. Hey, Heath. It's an interesting thought. The characters all have the following titles: the Brain Bear, the Lightfoot, the Deadeye, the Mesmeric, and the Iron Cast. So, there's just as much a reason to maybe not give them names if they decide not to, because if you're in a group that maybe prizes its anonymity, maybe you have code names, and maybe that leans into their nicknames, I guess, or handles. Okay, that's a thought. So let's hold on to that idea. That's a possibility. Let me see if I can make a note real quick. What's really nice is World Anvil has a notes section. We're gonna make a new notebook, Emberwild. We're gonna say characters or players, PCs. That's as good a thing as any. Let's make them Cajun Craze. PCs. Codename idea. And I'm gonna add this idea that maybe the PCs rely on aliases or handles to preserve their anonymity, since they are actively trying to undermine a dangerous and powerful organization like SSG. SSG, Heath, if you weren't here for last week's episode, is the last solo thing that I did was the Sanctuary Security Guild, the SSG. They're a sort of conglomerate that the main characters are going to be dealing with, or at least is the purpose of their existence as a party. All right, so we have the Brain Bear. We're going to save these changes. It's in progress, but I will save that. And then we're going to make our next character. The next player was the Lightfoot. And the Lightfoot, we're going to just call them Lightfoot. The more I'm thinking about it, the more I'm... Oh, Heath, where were you the other day? Okay, hold on. Heath, you're wonderful. So, one of the things that I've been struggling with, and I need you guys to help me with this. I'm sorry if I clipped just now. But I need you guys to help me with this. We'll skip to this character. The Mesmeric, who's like a mage. Let me see. We need that to be tab on. So the Mesmeric has a question that has been posited to them by the game system. All of the characters have very specific questions that they're being prompted with. And hold on, let me see if I can pull it up actually, because if I can pull it up, then I can show you. So here's the Mesmeric. Oh, I love this setup. This is like my new favorite setup. All right, so the Mesmeric is a mage of sorts that is going to have a lot of really fun magical abilities like electronic maestro. You can connect to the natural sounds of the Emberwild, which is this nature and technology and magical world that we live in. Oh yeah, so Heath, this is Emberwild. I will send a link in the chat. It is an in-progress RPG that the creator, Spencer, he so graciously let me grab and make into a little mini campaign, and we're going to be putting it in Patreon for Nerdsmith. I'm going to try to run a really quick 3 to 6 episode podcast with it just to see how it plays. It is based on the Power by the Apocalypse system. You can find it on itch.io, so if you search Emberwild on itch.io, you'll find it. And it is available for free on itch.io to check out as Spencer is... Spencer? I feel really bad. I want to make sure I get the name right because this is a very cool concept. Emberwild. Itch.io. Oh, okay, didn't find the word Emberwild. There we go. Spencer Stark. Yes. Spencer is fabulous, and let me pool this so that I make sure I get the right project page. Okay, so here is... Sorry if I'm retreading on some information, but this is Emberwild. It is a... you can purchase it. You can get it for free, name your own price. I gave Spencer a couple dollars just as he was working on it. I would very likely like to pay him a little more because it's really beautiful. So it's this game of electric fantasy powered by the apocalypse. It has some interesting changes to the rules, obviously, but so this is the beta version of the document, and you can get the rules and the character sheets and the basic moves and the GM guide, all for as much as you're willing to help him as he's developing. Yeah, so anyway, really exciting. So I'm working on this idea of Emberwild. Now, the Mesmeric, as I said, you can tap into the natural sounds of... Oh man, Heath, you and I have to talk. I would love to... I'd love to bounce ideas off you for this initial campaign concept. So, Electronic Maestro, you can harness the sounds of the Emberwild to do your bidding, and you can create sounds using natural technology, and you can make music or create distractions or like harness the sound of a specific location to hear what's there. You can convince people to do stuff. This is a very bard-like character. You can take the form of another person, and you can pull metal roots and shards and plates from the ground to provide cover to, apparently, as I mistyped, serperate the enemy. Serperate the enemy is definitely going to be a thing now. I don't know how or why. Maybe a little gnome. Oh, by the way, Heath, you can, one of the character classes lets you have a gun sword. Just saying. So, Kitar, 100%. 200% valid. So, anyway, so what I would love your thoughts on, and you've already kind of hit on this, the Mesmeric, let me go back. The Mesmeric's question, the background question that the Mesmeric has been asked to answer. You have found that a specific set of words spoken by an enemy you recently faced have a strange and dangerous effect on you every time they're repeated aloud. What are they, and what do they do? I've already got my cast planned out, Heath, for this initial game, but if this works out really well, I would love to run it again, maybe even on a stream. I'm not sure yet, so I will keep you posted. Anyway, so this idea of the Mesmeric, there is an element of you use words as part of your power. You're able to convince people of things. You write music, maybe. You use the power of speech to control the world around you or to get what you need out of the world. And as a flip side of that, the background question posits that there is something specific when said aloud that affects you very strangely and very dangerously. And so one of the things that we've decided, we were doing a little less of a magic thing, but maybe it would be magic. The idea we had was that the Sanctuary Security Guild operates these little groups of salesmen. I tentatively called them shepherds. They're there to lead and convince people to hire the guild for its security assessment and reinforcing services. And the people that do these sales pitches are kind of like a guerrilla marketing team. They go around as if actual adventurers. They roam the countryside defeating things or making it seem like they're defeating things, however their morality might lead them, and then pitch themselves as representatives of the guild. And they are there to convince people to take SSG on as and become a client. So our Mesmeric, he was one of these guerrilla marketing guys. And he went around and he was a true believer in what SSG was claiming they were doing. They were protecting people, they were helping people strengthen their borders and strengthen their defenses so that the real overt threat in this world is going to be these traveling bands of warlords that are out on the edges and outskirts of the continent. And they're always trying to find their way in to the inner kingdoms. And so these warlords, lost the word. These warlords are a constant legendary threat. So SSG is able to kind of leverage that concern a lot of the time to convince people to join them. And our Mesmeric, our PC who was playing that class, eventually found out that SSG was double dealing. They were selling information of their clientele to the highest bidder, and those highest bidders were the warlords, with the understanding that if a warlord was able to use that information to their advantage and gain some power, SSG wouldn't be affected. Or I'm still working out a little bit how that works. Part of the trick is going to be SSG is able to suppress information about the clients that have been overthrown by these warlords or invaded by these warlords. And our party, this is all exposition, this isn't actually the story they're going to be playing, but our party discovered some of these encrypted files or some of this, let's say, media coverage that's being suppressed by SSG so that people don't know what's happening. There's a slow invasion going on in the outskirts of the continent, and nobody's aware of it. So what our party is doing is they're trying to sort of be like white hat hackers. It's very leverage inspired. They are going to be they're going to be giving people going to find clients and giving people advice on how to best protect themselves. And they do that partially by breaking into the facilities of the clients that they want. Well, the clients hire them to attempt to break into the facilities. And in exchange, if they're able to break through the defenses, they will be hired as clients. Or rather, they will be hired as consultants to help them shore up their defenses. Anyway, I really got off topic. I'm really good at that. The Mesmeric, the specific set of words spoken by an enemy you recently faced. We thought it might be maybe some sort of tagline from the Sanctuary Security Guild. Something that they were told, something that they say, some motto that they use in their commercials or use in their advertising that has some sort of sinister undertone when given the context of what they are actually doing. Or it could be a blatant lie. Yes. So we're playing. I'm now starting to think that maybe that's yes, Heath. That's a beautiful idea, and I love it. I really Dollhouse is a good touchstone for that. Maybe. So we were playing with some that were maybe a little more overt. That were like Sanctuary Security Guild, we're always at your back, or Sanctuary Security Guild, always watching, or something sort of overtly um, advertisey. But now I'm wondering if it's a little more interesting to have something happen to the Mesmeric. The Mesmeric has a lot of abilities that seem to lend itself to being a bit more of a deceptive salesman. I mean, if you think about the idea of some of the things that they can do, they can create sensory effects and distractions. They can convince, not only can they convince people, but the inception ability, oh, it really just synergizes really well with this. So one of the skill moves is Believe Me. And if you roll a 13 or higher as a mesmeric, you can make the target believe that what you wanted them to do was their idea all along. That is really a nice ability for someone to have if their job is to convince people that, oh, well, of course you need protection from this guild. You came up with it. I came to you and you've talked me into it. You're right. You're a great candidate for being a client of ours. Yeah. Okay. All right, so we're going to play a bit more spy with the mesmeric maybe. I'll talk to the player and see what he thinks about it. But yeah, if you think of I actually don't know the Darren Brown linguistic programming reference. So if you want to articulate it a bit more, I would appreciate it. And so yeah, this idea of maybe having the mesmeric be someone who maybe didn't realize they were brainwashed by the company, by the guild. And they were trained in these skills and didn't even realize what was happening at the time. And maybe when they got a little bit of insight into what was going on, they kind of shook out of it a little bit. But there are certain phrases, there is a certain phrase that will do something. Now, the real question is, what does that phrase do? That's a big question. It has to be, according to this, strange and dangerous. And I don't know what I don't necessarily want him to like Hulk out or suddenly try to assassinate everybody. I maybe want to lean into the strangeness rather than the like suddenly he turns on the party. I trust the player with something like that, but at the same time I don't know how productive that is. I don't know. He just wears a tinfoil hat all the time. That would be fun. Oh, creates a speech impediment. That's so sad. Our tone has not really been set. I am willing to invest in a bit of a madcap or silly tone just because of the players that are in it. I'm sure it'll get a little silly. And the fact that it's just. Sorry, chewing. Let me fix this. Let me be polite to anyone with misphony. Anyway, so all right, well let me instead of just talking this out, how about I actually just make some notes? Because these are good ideas. All right, so I'm gonna make a mesmeric page. So let's talk a little bit. If someone who uses their words to activate their powers is suddenly unable to use their power. Huh. Interesting. Okay. That's definitely an option. I like that. So if the mesmeric's option, let's say option 1, mesmeric's abilities hinge on spoken word. So the trigger, let's call it the dangerous phrase for now. effect causes difficulty in speech. Speech impediment. Maybe. I mean, I'm not making light of it for that, but I do have a slight concern that it turns something genuine for someone into like a magical effect. So I'm not always 100% on those. But option 2 is they go River Tam. That's another option. Oops, hold up. I need to lose their gift for gab. Okay. So lose their charisma effect or gift of gab. So that's definitely an option. Yeah. Like it almost feels like a. So it almost feels like a memory lapse a little bit. Like a memory lapse. Just yeah. No, I like that. That is very, very doable. So let's explore that then. Yes, brain fart. I like it. Let's just call it that. All right, so let's see. Option 3. We'll call it River Tam syndrome. Turn on. Let's say a mission is activated and will attack or subdue anyone who is preventing or who's in the way of that mission. That's an option. I'm not like super jazzed about that one. Option 4, let's say vegetable, for lack of a better term. Yeah, anyone who is seen as an obstacle. Thank you. That is the word I was searching for, Heath. I just completely lost it. Catatonic state. That would certainly be strange and dangerous. I could pull a weird horror thing and they just open their mouth and music comes out and that's all that they can do for a set amount of time. I don't know. Maybe. I'll talk to the player. I think if you think of anything else, let me know. But sorry, Autumn. I'll talk to the player. Here are some options. But more importantly, want to come up with the thing. Want to come up with the phrase, the word that would do this. And so so what was it? Ooh. I like that, Heath. That's really good. Yeah. Okay, so a catatonic state and repeats a phrase quietly to themselves, mumbling chord. Ooh, I fucking love that. That's really good. Okay. All right. Everyone's really messed up in this one. I like it. Okay, so let's see. Sanctuary Security Guild. Always at your side. That one. That's less... It's a little more creepy when you realize that they're always around, always watching. Some variation of this idea of trying to instill confidence and skill and strength into their clients, but then it also sounds very fascist and very authoritarian when you realize, Hefe, that's what I still haven't like heard the thing that makes me go, yes, that's it. I haven't gotten to that, what we at Nerdsmith have dubbed the fuck yeah moment. I haven't quite hit that yet, but I'm going to play around with it. Ooh, Logan, that's nice. I like that. Sanctuary Security Guild, we're with you. Ooh, I really like it. That's hi. Uh, I really like that. Okay, that's okay, Logan. I'm having fun. I'm doing what I can. Sanctuary Security Guild. We're with you. Yeah, how do you like this new setup? How do you like this? This is cool, right? With the screen. Anyway, okay, so that's Sanctuary Security Guild. Mesmeric. All right, so really got off topic slightly. But yeah, right. Seriously, I've been completely sold on this idea of having. I had lost my words. I'm sorry. Don't worry about it. Okay. Anyway, so we are going to work on the Autumn is one of my players in this game. Autumn, I don't know if you caught at the beginning, but we talked about the idea that maybe you guys don't have names. Maybe you guys go by code names, and the code names are your actual classes. So your character would be Ironcast. That'd just be how you were known, because anonymity anonymity is important in your line of work, as you are all maybe you all connected through the underground to get out of the guild safely. So you're all kind of on the run a little bit. So I like that idea that it actually frees you guys up to not have to name your characters, and you just sort of are your class. So since we've been talking about the Mesmeric, let's do that a bit. Sorry, I habitually click between tabs. So, the Mesmeric, a flashy former salesman in the Security Guild's guerrilla social marketing forces, whose music has turned into angry noise following the discovery of SSG's betrayal of trust. They were a genuine believer in the cause and are now haunted by the lies they told to benefit the guild. I'm gonna paste these options. We're gonna say, where is this? Okay, so, background question. I'm gonna paste this in so that we remember what this is. Yeah, I really think the phrase, Logan, you really, you hit it. Sanctuary Security Guild. We're with you. I'm going to play with a bunch of these, but thank you all for continuing to give me more of them. But I would say "we're with you" is a phrase that could be said outside of one of their advertisements. So yeah, no, I like it. God, I'm really leaning towards option 4 right now. So happy, Autumn. Honestly, you're here, so this is fun. So since you're here, Autumn, let's talk your character. How about that? Let's bust out what I had written already for the Ironcast. And honestly, Autumn, if you're open to it, we can all just chat about the Ironcast a little bit. So, we did some really fun things with the idea. Yes, Heath, absolutely. The option 4 is 100% I need to close this. Hold on. It's a really good story hook. I very much appreciate that. Mesmeric. Go back to that. I think we are going to do option 4. So maybe, honestly, maybe just make it option 1. Let's change it. Let's just stick it at the top, because that is the best one so far. Excuse me. Okay. That. I think that's okay. So how long does it last? Can you turn it off? Does it wear out naturally? Good questions. Nothing that is dictated by the story building. It is incredibly open-ended, and I think we can define that as we want. Hi, welcome Party RPG. Thank you for the raid. I am doing some world building right now, in an electric fantasy world. Let me Emberwild. I will put it in chat. If you check out Emberwild, that's what I'm building a campaign for right now. So, anyway, we did some really fun things with this class. The Ironcast. Let me pull up the Ironcast. Don't have any stuff here. We have the Lightfoot. The Ironcast, okay. So, it's not, it doesn't necessarily have to be horror either, Jay. This game plays very much, a big video game reference that I would take from this is, specifically one of the big, cultural touchstones that they use in this game is, Horizon Zero Dawn, the video game, which I personally love this game. It's got one of the best stories of any of the open world RPGs that I've played. I really, really enjoy it. A little more hand-holdy than Mass Effect, because Mass Effect lets you do like a bunch of stuff, but well, I guess it's comparable actually. I'll switch that. But anyway, Horizon Zero Dawn has this premise of like very rudimentary technology, and around everyone in these sort of tribal cultures, there are robotic animals that have now taken over the landscape. There are some smaller creatures like there's raccoons and foxes and I think boars might be the biggest thing. But everything else is dinosaur-like or massive, and they all look like, the very initial ones look kind of like horses. They look very much like the MIT robots, the ones that they're designing to move around different spaces. But then they sort of took that and blew up the concept to, all right, what if there's a giant brontosaurus or a massive alligator that shoots ice stuff? It's very much like that, and that is very, that is my strongest touchstone for the Emberwild universe. So anyway, I will get back onto topic. We are talking about the Ironcast, which is one of our classes. And so Autumn, Lasalante Nariel in chat, Autumn is playing our Ironcast. And the Ironcast initially felt very much like a paladin or a fighter. Your abilities are all surrounding martial combat. Just so you can see, if you can't read it, you raise your sword and run at the enemy, determined to keep your allies safe. But always putting yourself in danger for others comes at a heavy cost. So that's the pitch for the Ironcast. You have a couple of abilities that are very, very combat focused, unlike the Mesmeric that has a lot of showy magic. So there's things like you can make an enemy target you instead of an ally. You can, or rather, not that you can, but you do. You attract attention. You are seen as the physical threat in a combat situation. So you can enter a space, you can enter a zone that an ally is in and attract that attack instead. You get to add some dice to your battle dice when you're attacking. You get some options to you can attack when you've moved into position, and you can carry an ally out of a zone to get to protect them, or you can dual wield blades. Autumn, can I just say that I really want you to dual wield gun swords? How cool would that be? I just think that would be the coolest thing ever. So I will let you do that. I will let you dual wield gun swords. But the premise, the background question for the Ironcast, and all of the classes have this fundamental, oddly specific question, but it's really fun for the purposes of our game. So if you look up here, though you're usually able to protect those who need it, you recently failed and lost someone you care deeply about. Who was it, and what group of dangerous people was responsible for it? Now, we haven't answered the first question. Who was this person? And Autumn obviously can think more about that. But we did determine, and if you can, I'll give you one guess, who the dangerous people that were responsible for it was the Sanctuary Security Guild, the big bad of this story. So what we determined was that the Iron Cast was a victim of the Security Guild's nefarious information dealing, lost someone close to them in a warlord raid, and nearly died themselves, only to be brought back from the brink of death through nature/tech/magic, which is what the Emberwild is. It's the wild of the world that is this conflagration? Is that a right word for it? Anyway, nature and magic and technology are all sort of blended and mushed and are kind of the same thing. You are an Arcanotech enhanced warrior with a bone to pick with the Sanctuary Security Guild. So what we came up with was Fantasy RoboCop. I'm so excited. So this idea is, the Iron Cast was caught in this warlord raid, and we've talked earlier during the stream that the amalgamation. So thank you, Autumn. So we came up with this concept that the Autumn, you haven't heard this part potentially. The reason that your party, and I should write this down instead of just saying it, because it's very important to note these things. And if anyone hasn't used this before, I'm using World Anvil as my building space, so I highly recommend you check it out at worldanvil.com. No. I want, sure, we'll just make a page for it. Party motivation. That's not how you spell that word. Can you imagine? So the idea was the Security Guild has been suppressing and destroying media evidence of the warlords encroaching on the continent. So, deleting footage, suppressing stories, maybe even, what would you call it? Detaining or silencing those who would spread that information. I just came up with a fun idea for the Mesmeric, but I can't say it on stream because one of our players is here. But I am going to emphasize River Tam. Memory. Anyway, I'm just gonna put that out for later. Don't worry about that, Autumn. Don't you worry about any of that. Most specifically Serenity, Heath. Anyway, so the Iron Cast, we came up with this really fun idea, and all I can imagine is Fantasy RoboCop through the lens of like a warlock. Now, this concept was the Iron Cast and this person they were very close to got caught in this warlord raid, something that it came without warning, and it was a massacre, and the Iron Cast and their loved one barely managed to escape into the woods and were sort of dying. The mortal wounds and stress and lack of sleep and no food or water or anything, sort of dying out in the wilderness. And I think, and this is going to be up to Autumn, the actual circumstances, what I imagine happening is that your loved one succumbed to mortal wounds, and you were about to. And you were found by a spirit of the Emberwild. Now, the nature of that spirit is a mix of, as we said, magic and technology, and so we came up with this idea of sort of riffing off of RoboCop. I have always enjoyed the concept of gray goo in sci-fi, this idea of nanotechnology that is so small and so coordinated and such a hive mind that it basically is it's basically a just a substance. It's not even tech at that point. And so I have this whole idea that I'm going to have mimics that are made of gray goo in this world. But what if you use that for cybernetic enhancements? What if you use that to bring someone back from the brink? You know, so it's this mix of like RoboCop and Cyborg from the DC comics. So the Iron Cast has. Excuse me. Hold on. Okay. The Iron Cast has all of these abilities of dual wielding and being able to attack really well and being, you know, very focused and very strategic and good at doing all of these things. And we decided, well, what if all of these abilities have either been enhanced or been created by this connection to this Emberwild spirit that has brought you back from the brink with this gray goo technology. And so it's entirely up to you, Autumn. Ew, they ate nanotech. That's really gross. Don't trust speaking inanimate objects. So, no, it's totally fine. Entirely up to you whether or not you want to do a sort of natural scale, like dark gunmetal sort of effect. We could do that. We could also kind of lean more into, we could lean more into like a chrome aesthetic, or ooh, what about like a crunchy chrome? I think that sounds cool. Like it's just built in, and it's this sort of like really gnarly. It's almost like you crunched up aluminum foil, and that's maybe that sounds really dumb. You look like you're cosplaying in just foil armor. No, we'll talk about it. But the premise of this character is that they are a mix. I'm going to put this a mix of a paladin and a warlock, a 5e paladin and warlock, and their motivation is they lost someone very close to them, and maybe this Emberwild spirit is going to try to bring them back in some capacity. We played around with the idea of maybe having it be reconstructing that person's personality in the form of an AI, or something like that, like a promise to do that in exchange for protecting the natural world, protecting the Emberwild. This motivation of wanting to protect itself, and therefore it has made its own champion to do so. So I really dig this idea of sort of a paladin of the ancients, tasked by an Emberwild guardian, which is what the spirits are called, or the animals are called, to protect the Emberwild. So yeah, that's what the Ironcast's deal is. So this is a draft, but I'm still gonna have it be publishable. And since we're talking to a player right now, I won't work on the plot. We'll not worry about that. Okay, so really quick, we'll go through the last two. Actually, yeah, we'll go through the last two. So the Lightfoot. Lightfoot is a survivalist and a nature hacker who has a particular affinity for the animal guardians of the Emberwild. And to quote the player, she just wants all the pets. So this is very Horizon Zero Dawn inspired. Referencing Aloy from Horizon Zero Dawn, and her staff hacking thing. I don't remember what it was called. Yeah, so this is actually one of the classes here in the Emberwild system. Let me pull it up. I think it's in the middle. There we go, the Lightfoot. The Lightfoot. You're spry and untamable, leaping from trees and rooftops, dropping unseen behind enemies, and always one step ahead. You usually find a way to outrun your problems, but your past is now starting to catch up with you. Yeah, it's Tessa, Jay. It's Tessa. See, if Avatar the movie had just embraced the sci-fi thing, all right, I will I will make a note, Autumn, to talk about that for the Ironcast. Note from Autumn. Save. Okay, so the Lightfoot is going to, and where's my reference? Is that just my reference of that? Yeah, we don't have much built for the Lightfoot yet, but we did come up with this idea of emphasizing the guardians of the Emberwild. So I'm going to do a little bit more consideration of what that is in the world. There's a lot to be done in that space. There's some setting information that I want to play around with, see what Spencer has to say about the Guardians, but yeah. So that's the basic gist of the Lightfoot. And the last thing is the Deadeye. Deadeye. So the Deadeye, I didn't mean to do that. The Deadeye is a sharpshooter who is able to triangulate their shots and track targets using the natural surveillance system of the Emberwild. Specifically, the underground fungal network that connects everything in the OLED forest. The OLED's a pun on OLED, because this is a forest of concrete and lights and wires and stuff that have all sort of merged together in this sort of swampy, canopy space. It's pretty cool. I really dig it. Anyway, so the Deadeye is going to have this cool sniper vision. I did forget one extra note. My connection's a little spoopy right now, so sorry. Yes, thank you. Disney princess with slightly creepy cyborg animals following everywhere. This sounds very much like what happened to Bonnie last night on Shenanigans, except robots. So the Deadeye is going to have this really cool thing that they're going to be connected to this idea of... So in the natural world, in our world, there is a lot of ways that a ecosystem can essentially communicate with the disparate parts of that ecosystem. And we're just sort of taking that to a more tech direction, a network, like an intranet of the forest. And so the sniper, the Deadeye is going to have some cybernetics, maybe something tangentially related to what the Ironcast has, that allows, and I like this idea, we might take it a little more literally, that Deadeye is that it doesn't, yeah, I need to write that down. Deadeye is more literal. And they have a cybernetic eye that allows them to like touch the fungal network or touch a tree and feel the signals going through, and it lets them see what's going on. I kind of want to do something with a shoe, like their foot has a panel on it, shoe panel that when touched to a tree, etc., allows them to tap into the security footage, basically the security feed of the forest. Basically have infrared or other means of sensors. Bye, Heath. You were amazing. Thank you so much for all your help today. Honestly, we're wrapping up here, so that's as good a reminder as any. So those are our characters. We have the brain bear, the automaton that can wirelessly connect to its ancestors. We have the mesmeric, the former salesman who apparently is now River Tam. We have the Ironcast, a fantasy cyborg. We have the Lightfoot, who is a sort of animal hacker, and the Deadeye, which is a sharpshooter sniper who can see and triangulate their shots using the natural world's natural security system sensors. So very, very wanted. Wanted the movie. Yes, Jason will be a lovely River Tam. All right, so those are our character types, and that's what we worked on today. Is just sort of building them more into the world. I really, really appreciate everybody who spent the time to come hang out while I was doing the world building today. If you haven't joined us before, this is the Discover RPG Power Hour. Usually I am joined by my co-host, Logan. Oh, it's okay, Calico. You can watch it on VOD. I just we were doing some goofing around. It's great information if you want to kind of see what some of the stuff you can do with World Anvil is. But so this is usually the Discover RPG Power Hour, your afternoon break for RPG discussions, and I'll just continue working on this. I'm hoping to create some neat Patreon exclusive stuff here in World Anvil, but I thought that would be super boring for you guys to watch me click around to figure out how to do. And I'm just I'm playing around a little bit. So once again, please check out Emberwild by Spencer Stark. It's an amazingly interesting beta game system that we're going to be playing in for a short series of like a mini campaign that's going to be on our Patreon at I don't know if we have it up here. Let's find out. Patreon.com/nerdsmith. You can join us on Patreon and get access to a bunch of cool features and support the shows that we are working on producing for you guys. We did just recently, and just so you know, thank you patrons, of course, we just hit our $100 a month level. So we're going to be, we're working on our merch store, which was one of the things we wanted to do at $100 a month. And we are going to be planning a mini series, which, to be honest, it might just end up being Emberwild. But we're going to try to run a mini series maybe on stream that our patrons get to vote on. So you guys can help us build the system or the genre or the theme that we play around with. And yeah. So please tell people if you like the show, and I'm so glad you guys joined me. I know this was a bit of a flight of fancy today. But anyway, sorry I don't know how to do music yet. I can't do any anything like that. But all of you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you so much for joining us. And I will see you all next week, same time, same place, here on Nerdsmith's Twitch channel. You all have a great day. Bye-bye. Oh, I'm Angela. You can find me at darling_gypsum on Twitter. Twitter. Here is the Twitter. There's the Twitter. Come follow me and I'll post cool stuff. All right. Bye-bye, everybody.